The creator economy is dying, and you need to shift if this is what you want to continue to do. The days of being paid from these monetization programs, things like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, even to a certain extent YouTube, those days are over. The reliance on that, it came, it went. It started with just being an influencer, and then it started to be incentivized. We're kind of coming off the other side of that, where people are still being paid from platforms, but to expect that you are only going to be paid from these platforms is really unrealistic. This is everything that you're going to need to do if you want to continue to be a content creator and if you want to be successful in that realm, even if you're just getting started. My name is Michon. I'm a content creator and business owner who grew my personal brand, built a business, and expanded across multiple platforms, all in 1 year. I've created multiple streams of income as a content creator, all with the same business. And on this channel, I give unfiltered and uncut experiences of my journey so that you can do what I did, hopefully in half the time. If your goal is to grow your platform and you are a new creator, this is the place for you. Grab your pen, grab your paper, let's get started. The first thing you need to know is that you need to focus on building a community. Do not rely on these platforms to pay you just for producing random, heartfelt content. Does your heart need to be in it? Yes. Do you need to be authentic? Yes. But you also need to be consistent. You need to be very diligent about the things that you put out, and you need to focus on building a community so that you can always market to your community, even if the algorithm is not swinging in your direction. And I say swinging in your direction because it is sometimes a game, but the best way to go about it is to just appeal to your audience and to build a consistent, authentic relationship with your community. What does that look like? Posting regularly about the things that matter to you, but moving very, very close to the line of how do I help people? Yes, we still want to inspire, but we have to be honest about the take and the turn that we're facing with influencer culture. People are growing fatigued at a very increasing rate. I'm not saying that if your thing is luxury and influence that you should stop doing that, but I think that the performative nature of it is on the downtick, and people are exhausted from seeing it. People are struggling. People are kind of over that. There is still going to be a large group of people who are still able to thrive in that community because it's aspirational. But for the most part, if you're just getting started, unless that is a natural part of your lifestyle, flexing your lifestyle in that way is not really going to be it. You want to focus on how can you teach people to do something, how can you educate people, how can you inspire people, but mostly how can you solve their problem. So if you're in this luxury space of being more of an influencer, if you're going to continue to take that route of being big money, being very ostentatious and in people's faces, flaunting your wealth, you're going to have to figure out a way to solve their problem, whether it be giving them the best tips on skincare, giving them the best tips on how to actually achieve that lifestyle that you have, showing them where you're going with your shopping experiences. If you haven't already established yourself as a particular creator in that space and you're going into it, say something like fashion, something like lifestyle, something like beauty, hair, you just want to make sure that you're hyper focusing on I'm displaying my lifestyle and I want to be paid to be a creator, but you're also giving tools and resources for people to walk away from your brand with. This is going to be extremely important because, as I mentioned, with the way that things are changing, you can't constantly rely on the platforms paying you. About a year ago this time, I was consistently earning thousands of dollars from TikTok just from being monetized in a creator rewards program, to now sometimes you may not even see that kind of money depending on what it is that you're doing. And this could be for a lot of reasons. I have my own theory. I think that it has a lot to do with wanting to even out the playing field because people started to realize just how easy it was to become a content creator and to start making money. And so I think that because of that, there were a lot of people in it. And to keep things regulated, they're changing things a lot. The monetization practices and the ways that the payouts are happening are also changing. But on the positive side, this could be really good because if you can stick it out and make it through this phase as a content creator, you will still be valuable. And if it ever does change in the future, you're still making content. So we don't want to rely solely on the content being the thing that pays us. Meaning, when you post to Instagram or when you post to Facebook, they send you money based on how well that video performs. When you post to TikTok, they send you money based on how well that video performs. When you post to YouTube, they send you money based on how well that video performs. That is great, but I like to tell new creators, all creators really, that should just be a bonus. If you can have If you're an influencer, build that community, build that audience. Every time you make video, if you just focus on making videos that are going to resonate with your community, increase engagement, spark conversation, even if they don't go viral, that is pivotal. That is of the utmost importance. Because when you take these videos and you show it, let's say you're on an influencer side, you show it to these brands that you want to work with, well, you have notoriety. You have the ability to let them know I have a community that is valuable, that rocks with me. They listen to me, they engage with me. That's what they're really paying for as a brand. And on the content creator business owner side, if you have that invested community, you don't need everyone on the internet to see your content. You just need those invested people. I've said before that I've had videos that have underperformed severely, under 1,000 views across any of the platforms, but they still made me hundreds, if not thousands of dollars because the right people saw it. So it's not going to just be trying to get viral. Virality helps when it comes to being paid by the platforms. It also does help to have a viral video that hits the right people in your business or with your creatorship. But my point is, you want to focus more on building that community and getting people to be invested in what it is that you put out. You also want to get to a point where you have regular people coming in. So if you're going live, you should see some of the same names popping up. When you're making videos, you should see a lot of the same people in your inbox. When you're rolling out programs, you should see some of the same people. This is how you know you're building community and it's not just random one-off videos. It can be an adrenaline rush and it could be a great hit to your dopamine to be going viral all the time. But unless you're going viral for the right reasons, in this economy that we're moving into with creatorship, it is a waste. So focus on building a community and just continue to do that. The second thing that I want you to focus on is being a brand. You are a brand and you should act like it. That means that you should have products, you should have services, or at least affiliate links. This can look different for each and everything. I will tell y'all what I do, and I will tell you, you don't have to do this. It really just depends on what your personal brand is. So I am my own personal brand, but I am able to expand into several different avenues on how I want to monetize that. And all of them are fairly easy for my personality. For instance, this channel that you're watching this on, this is not my primary YouTube channel, but because I have a personal brand where I talk about other things, I want to create a journey for my marketing and for my business. And I want to always remember how I went from where I was to where I am and where I will be in the future. I also feel as though I don't really have a package or some type of product that I want to sell to people based on this, but I do want to give back and give the information. So I continue to post here as an extension of my personal brand. If this channel ever gets monetized, which it will, I will be paid from that. That is a stream of income. But I post on TikTok, I post on Instagram and Facebook, I post on YouTube. I am paid on all of those platforms. So those platforms pay me to post. I do not stop there. I'm also a TikTok Shop affiliate. So anything that I buy and I absolutely love from TikTok Shop, you bet that I post it, I talk about it, I share it. I also make a pretty good amount of money from that. I have products and services for the primary brand that I built on TikTok. So when I'm posting videos on any of the platforms, I'm getting paid to post, but I'm also plugging my products. I'm also talking about my services. I'm going live and I'm sending people through my sales funnel. So I'm getting paid to post, but I'm also getting paid to develop free leads on these websites. You follow where I'm going here? So you really want to make sure that as a brand, you have things going for yourself. If you're a business owner, you should absolutely have products and services, multiple. And so I just told you all of those ways, but within my business, there are multiple ways that I can get paid because I have a spread of products and services that appeal to different people along their journey. You should do the same. If you're more on the influencer side, your products and services are really just going to be those affiliate links and brand deals. But my point is, you should not just limit yourself to what the platforms are going to pay you. You should present yourself as a personal brand, and you should work to make sure that you have ways to establish yourself and to be compensated outside of just what the apps are going to pay you. The third thing is that you need to stop listening to everyone. I said this in a vlog a couple weeks ago. I saw a video of a young man saying that he learned that he just needed to stop listening to all the gurus. Now, I don't think that you need to stop listening to everybody, period, because I talked about the way that I listen to advice, especially when it comes to building a brand, learning social media. I don't always listen to strategy. I like to be inspired by those people. So there are some creators that I always listen to, and I do have a video coming up on the people that I listen to and who I'd recommend to everyone. But you need to not listen to everything that everybody says, because you do start to get a little overwhelmed and you start to feel like you're being pulled in different directions, and then you start to feel like you're going backwards instead of forward. So my advice would be, and this is something that I've learned as well, I talked about this in a previous blog, in a previous vlog, you have aspirational creators that you know will give solid and sound advice that is consistent. And then you should have some creators that are just a few steps ahead of where you are. I mentioned in one vlog that I'm always listening to Myron Golden, I'm always listening to Omar, I'm always listening to Coach Denisha. And those people are practically eons ahead of me as far as where they are in business. They've already earned multiple millions and they teach people to do the same. I'm not there yet. So one of the more recent creators that I started following is Jalen. Jalen made his first million in business, I believe his first million last year, and he does it in a way that is a system that is very easy for me to replicate in my own business. And because of that, I'm able to take things that he teaches and apply them directly. Whereas those coaches that I mentioned before, sometimes there's a few steps ahead of me. So, for instance, I took the Myron Golden Make More Offers challenge, and I was able to transform and get so much done within a short period of time. But there were still so many moving pieces that had to be put into place before I could implement the rest of his advice. And I'm still working on that. So I took that challenge in the spring. It is now the end of 2025. We're going into 2026. And there were still some gaps that I had to fill in between now and then, so that I could actually implement those things. And that's what I mean, where I have a creator where I know what he says, I can probably take it right now, digest it, and put it into practice. But some of the things, for instance, like writing my book, I had to go through certain steps that I did not know I needed to go through before I could follow Myron Golden's advice. And again, it just has to do with him being a little bit more established and developed. Doesn't mean that I'm going to stop listening to him, but I know that more often than not, when I listen to Jalen, I'm listening to apply the knowledge now. But when I'm listening to my other coaches, I'm listening for inspiration. I'm listening for the story that's going to help me to stay inspired and on and motivated. I'm listening for these little side lifestyle habit changes more than I'm listening to do this now to make this change. And every now and then I do hear something that is very practical that I can use, but I do know that I don't have to listen to and apply every single strategy that they talk about. And it's very important that you learn that as a creator so that you don't get burned out and you don't feel like, why are all these people saying different things? They're going to say different things because they're all talking to you based on their experience with themselves, with the people that they teach, and the best method and practice that they've learned over time. But it's never just one way to do anything. So you have to lose the idea that it's only one way. And you just have to say, I know there's multiple ways out there, but who am I willing to listen to? Who am I willing to be mentored by? And I'm going to follow their way until I get it together and I can develop my own strategies. That's how you keep from being overwhelmed. And that's how you listen to multiple people in a way that is actually useful for you and your brand. The next thing is, if you want to make good short form content, you have to be bold and unapologetic. You cannot address too much nuance. Be short, be quick, be sweet, be ready for the attacks that come your way. You basically have to lean more into polarity and not over explaining. That should be saved for the long form content. And I don't want you to do this in a way that is intentionally ruffling feathers and being deviant, but essentially say the thing. So I'll give you an example. When I first got started on TikTok and I first started to get a lot more visibility, one of the videos that I threw out there, and this was not intentional because this was my very first viral video, but when I studied it and realized why that happened, this is why I can unpack this and tell you today. I said in a video, a hill that I would die on is that women shape the dynamic of a relationship. And I did a very short video. I think it was only 2 minutes or less. And I explained a situation that happened in my relationship and how I came to understand that. The on screen text said that women control the dynamic of the relationship, or women shape the dynamic of the relationship. Why is this important? Because it was polarizing. It wasn't offensive. It was very direct and to the point. I didn't address a lot of nuance. Again, didn't know that that was a thing, but I did that. And what ended up happening after that, and what made my videos get pushed out, I spent a lot of time doing video responses. And in those video responses, I would address the nuance. So if somebody says, so what you're saying is this, this, and this, I would click on that, do a video response, give a little bit more context, and so on. So I spent maybe like the next 2 days doing that. And so out of that one video maybe came another 20 to 30 videos of me explaining things, going further into detail. but that original video was short, sweet, to the point, didn't address too much nuance, didn't have too much going on. Done. I recommend you do the same thing for short form content. Save your long, thought out, over explaining thought pieces for your long form content. There's a time and place. And another thing that I would add to this is don't try to convert all of your people across all platforms. Think about yourself. You may have your favorite creators. Even some of my favorite creators, I'm not following them across all platforms because there's just different things that you need from different people and different things that you do on different apps. You can always plug your things, but there's no need to try to convert people because people on TikTok are not as patient to sit down and watch a full length YouTube video. People on Instagram may not have the same desire to come and follow you on TikTok. It's different. So you want to make sure that you're catering to the type of program that is necessary. With short form content, if you're going to use this advice that I just gave you, you need to have thick skin. You can't be crying. You got to be willing to have the tomatoes thrown at you. It is what it is. And every now and then you're going to have to get off the app because you're going to face, unfortunately, the internet trolls. You're going to face being torn down. You're going to have a video, 2 or 3, where people completely misunderstand you. They tear you to shreds. There's going to be stitch after stitch after stitch, and you can't take those things personally. So the thing that I would add to this is if you're going to take this approach, please be sure that you mean what you say. Don't just get on this internet saying anything. Tell the truth so that you can be authentic, so that you can stand your ground. Do not backpedal because that makes you fake. Save the nuance and the longer, drawn out things for your long form content. The next thing is to be aligned. This goes with authenticity. I think that when you're aligned, it's much more easy to be consistent. Sometimes consistency and authenticity don't live at the same address, but when you're aligned, it's much easier to show up successfully and consistently. And I'll give you an example. I mentioned that this is a separate channel where I don't have products and services. I don't have any of that. Now, if I were to switch my personal brand to teaching people how to scale their businesses, teaching people how to market, teaching people how to make money, I would probably already be a millionaire. Promise you. I don't do a lot of work on this particular channel showcasing and attracting eyes to this brand. That's not the conversation that I want to have here. I want to talk about how in my primary business, the focus has now been not necessarily on volume, but getting the right quality of individuals and maximizing nurturing relationships because I want to see results. The problem that I have when I teach people what I'm teaching over here is I'm so personally connected to your success that if you do not succeed, I feel like a failure. And that was really exhausting, but I was also being met with people who had very high expectations for themselves, but they're not showing up and wanting to do the work, or they think that it's going to happen overnight. They're not consistent. They don't stick to it. And that was taking a toll on me. And although I'm very good at what I teach, it was just not something that was sustainable for me at scale, and it was not something that I felt comfortable doing. However, on the other side of that, where I'm building these personal relationships, I can have programs that are more dedicated to helping the personal development of women. I can charge a little bit more so that I have fewer people needing to be in that space for it to be profitable. And that is something that has been incredible. It's allowed me to create based on what I actually want to do. It's allowed me to be able to create from my natural gifts, and it's allowed me to be able to teach so heavily with conviction. I'm not saying I'm not good at what I do on this side, but I'm saying that to make my entire brand teaching people how to grow and market their businesses or their online presence, that would not have been something that would have been sustainable for me. And I would have probably just been doing it for the money, if I'm being honest. But I think that it makes it so much easier to show up. I've seen people burn out. I've seen people say, I'm so sick of this. But I found that over and over because I'm speaking from my past and who I was, and I'm just laying it out and saying, hey, girl, this is what I learned. Hey, girl, you shouldn't do that. I'm like talking to a little sister or a niece constantly on the apps, constantly through my content. It is so easy to continue to show up. And when I stopped shortchanging myself on the cost of my programs and I started doing fair pricing, fair for me and the customer, honestly, and I started focusing on giving the most benefit from my programs, giving the most of myself from my programs, that's when my life got better. That's when my business started to change. And I'm still seeing growth, still having to tweak things, but being aligned was very important for that. So if you find yourself struggling and just like doing everything for a dollar, take a step back and figure out what it is that you want to do, figure out what it is that you're good at, who you want to speak to, and operate from that space. It's so much easier. All of the marketing and business advice makes more sense when you operate from that space. So make sure that you're aligned before you just start doing stuff. The last thing that I want to leave you with ties in something that I already mentioned, but I want to add another layer. It's this concept of making sure that you apply what you already know before you invest more. That's for products, services, even time spent on a YouTube video. Do not continue to watch videos if you have not taken what was in the video that you already watched and try to apply it. The other aspect of this that we already talked about is the success coach. So find a success coach or two or three, whatever, and actually follow what they are saying. Don't listen to everybody. Don't eat everywhere. If you eat everywhere, you get sick. If you go to multiple churches and listening to all of these pastors talking to you, you're going to be confused because somebody's not going to have sound doctrine. It's the same thing. And all of the coaches that I mentioned, what's really unique about the people that I listen to is they're all interconnected. So a lot of their messaging is the same. Or I know that if I've never heard this person say this, they will probably agree with some level of this. And it makes it easy to digest. It makes it easy to listen to. And it also makes it more valid because I know that these people are doing the same things or they're teaching each other, or some of them are even in the same mastermind. And so when you take the advice of these people and when you're listening to the things and the advice that they give you, the other thing is you want to make sure that you're applying the information. One of my favorite podcasters is Callum Johnson. And I tell people all the time, Callum's podcast has put me on to so many people, but not only that, it expanded the way that I think. So Callum was one of the first people that introduced me to the concept of, and not him, but the person that he had on the interview was Omar. I can't remember his name. That might not even be his name, but he does faceless YouTube. And he had a program, but the program was not within my budget. It was very expensive at the time, but it inspired me. In the interview that I listened to, I went and watched so many of his other interviews on podcast episodes, and I took what I could and I made it, and I built an entire faceless YouTube channel from that information. That moment on, I kept going back to Callum's videos because he would always have people dropping gems. Now, in the year and a half that I've been listening to Callum, there have been 5 interviews where I took the information and I did something with it. All the other interviews, it was like lifestyle development, listening. I needed to hear that. I needed that word. I needed that reminder to just stay disciplined. I needed to remember that I should do this thing. You're not going to learn something every single time. But out of those 5 interviews, when I took that information, I watched them multiple times and I went and I applied it and I applied it and I applied it. And then I saw the results and then I applied it. And then I went to find more information. So often we are pulled in multiple directions because you're trying this and then you stop. You try this, it doesn't work, and then it stops. You try this and it doesn't work, and it's, you have to be willing to apply information, apply it again. When it works, do that again. When it doesn't work, analyze why it didn't work. Take full responsibility for the thing that you're creating and stand behind it 100%. And when you consistently do that, you will know what to take and what to leave. But you cannot continue to invest in courses, knowledge, material, information, and think that it's just going to be implanted if you don't do anything with it. So if you are looking to be a creator, if you are a content creator, if you're entering the influencer space, these are the things that you need to do. It is changing. It is going to be different. These are not always going to be tangible things that you can do right now, but these are absolutely tips that I would consider for anybody getting started in this space or even pivoting in this space, trying to navigate this space. Maybe you've been making videos for like the past year or so. You need to pay attention to what's happening. You need to be realistic, but most of all, you need to be so tuned and tapped into what it is that you're doing so that you can be successful. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and I will see you in the next video.